Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachanam pangam langyate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurudeen taranam parmanandam. So we had finished 321, which was essentially a prelude to the marriage of 322, sorry, which was essentially a prelude to the marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. So we saw the conversation between Kardama Muni and Swambhavu Manu, a lot of mutual respect and admiration between these two great personalities. In the previous chapter, Kardama Muni had glorified the rule of Swambhavu Manu. In this chapter, Swambhavu Manu accepts the glorifications as instructions of proper rule and genuinely thanks Kardama Muni, glorifies the qualities of Kardama Muni, and then offers his daughter Devahuti for marriage with many logical arguments in terms of the compatibility, in terms of it being the right time according to the Vedic principles, in terms of the desires of Kardama Muni to marry, in terms of the fact that Devahuti was also interested in the marriage. And then Kardama Muni, after that, he responds, accepting the proposal. And in accepting the proposal, he places one condition. The condition being that after he has given a progeny to Devahuti, he would leave the house. And in the mode similar to Swambhavu Manu, he glorifies the relationship as appropriate, and he glorifies Devahuti also, all her qualities, and both her beauty, but her moral characteristic. He also glorifies the fact that it's an appropriate relationship, because he acknowledges the fact that Devahuti's heart is set on him. He confesses that he himself considers her to be extremely attractive. So there is a lot of mutual attraction. There is no prior attraction to anybody else. So all the things were conducive to what Srila Prabhupada calls as a first-class Vedic marriage. And the chapter concludes with the marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. And Swambhavu Manu, after that, he departs, and there is a brief description of the kingdom of Swambhavu Manu, of how does a Raja Rishi live and rule. Like there was a lot of opulence everywhere, but it was all used in the service of the Supreme Lord. He lived in an opulent palace, but it was reverberating with bhajans and kirtans, and the Brahmins were well taken care of. So this position of Raja Rishis, it reminds us very much of in the first canto we had seen the description of the rule of Maharaj Yudhishthir, and later on the rule of Parikshit Maharaj. So these are all Raj Rishis, and the rule is been described to show how when anything is done with Krishna as the center, it becomes opulent. Otherwise, ruling is a highly passionate activity. There's a lot of political intrigue, and there is constant strife with enemies. There is making friends and dealing with adversaries. So it's a very very passionate environment. But when the devotees take on this, then not only does the opulence increases, but devotion also increases. And Srila Prabhupada would often make this statement that when will the time come when uh, a person with a Vaishnav tilak will sit on the chair of of a judge, when they will occupy positions of power. Once one of his disciples was running for a political election, and so some of the God brothers told Prabhupada that he's running for it, and Prabhupada was actually very happy about it. He encouraged. He said, "Yes, we need more. We need more devotees in leadership positions. That's how other people will become devotees." So we now come to the 23rd chapter, Devahuti's lamentation. And in this, the chapter will begin with the service of Devahuti to her husband, Kardama, then followed by Devahuti's request for children from Kardama. The bulk of the chapter is the enjoyment of Devahuti and Kardama Muni. And the chapter ends with Kardama Muni, after having given 9 daughters to Devahuti, decides to leave, and Devahuti's request for him to stay back. So before we go into this chapter, I do want to point out, and we had a brief discussion about it in our previous class also. So, so I do want to point out that in the purports to these verses, Srila Prabhupada makes many comments that may seem disparaging to women. So he will variously describe women as less intelligent, lusty, addicted to sense enjoyment, never to be left independent, that the perfection of the life is to please and satisfy their husbands. So it appears to be a misogynistic perspective, a highly a male chauvinistic perspective. And as I mentioned it last time, it's important to look at it from a broader spiritual perspective. Srila Prabhupada also criticizes men. So his criticism is not just for women. His criticism is more for a mentality. So we will see that at various points, he liberally criticizes men as excessively lusty, as very materialistic, ambitious. He says that as like slaves to women. So the criticism is geared towards their mentality. In the Bhagavatam 7th canto, 1st chapter, 10th verse, Sukadeva Goswami says that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates different kinds of bodies, offering a particular body to each living entity according to his character and fruitive activities, the Lord revives all the qualities of material nature, Sattva, Raju, and Tamogun. And then as the super soul, he enters each body and influences the qualities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, using Sattva Guna for maintenance, Rajaguna for creation, and Tamaguna for annihilation. So the understanding is that everybody gets a body according to their desires and propensities. Now, the important point to note over here is that Srila Prabhupada often made this distinction between devotees and others, and he would make this point that all this is not applicable to devotees because of the understanding of this verse, that a particular soul likes to serve the Lord in a particular mood. That's why there are women in the spiritual world. So if being a woman meant all these things that Prabhupada says, then in the perfection of the existence, there would be only men. But that's not true. So there are some souls that desire to serve the Lord in a particular way. There's some souls that desire to serve the Lord in a different way. And uh, some devotees get bodies of men, some devotees get bodies of women. Radhanath Swami, he makes this point that in this age of Kali, when the qualities are being degraded, the men have actually fallen more because they have more potency to fall. So um, another lecture, he makes the point that it is much easier to preach to women because they are not crooked, and because they are simple at heart, they accept the tenets of Krishna consciousness much more quickly. So the basis of bhakti is using whatever we have in the service of Krishna. So whatever qualities, regardless of what the material aspirations are, they're only useful when they are used in the service of Krishna. Otherwise, they're useless. So I just wanted to give this little bit of context because, as I mentioned, that in almost all the opening verses, Srila Prabhupada displays that mood. So we have to just take it in that context. Okay. Verse 1. Maitre vacha pitrubhyam pratishthadvi patim mingit vida nityam paryachit pritya bhavaniva bhavan prabhum. Maitreya continued. After the departure of her parents, the chaste woman, Devahuti, who could understand the desires of her husband, served him constantly with great love, as Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, serves her husband. So in 8 verses, there is a description of the service attitude of Devahuti towards her husband. And I think my mind at this time is a little bit more focused towards the current situation. So when I was reading this verse, then this word COVID stood out to me. So Ingita Kovida means understanding the desires. So they're dealing with COVID, so that's why it kind of stood out to me. So back to the verse. So notice there is a parallelism that is given to Devahuti with Parvati Devi, and we see that there are several aspects that establish this parallelism. That both of them came from opulent aristocratic families, and they grew up with a lot of opulence. They were married to men who had no material possessions. Lord Shiv basically lives under a tree, and he has nothing. And Kardam Muni was living on a hut with nothing. And both their husbands were leading lives of great austerities. So not only were they poverty stricken, but they were also leading very austere lives. And both of them served their husbands with great love and devotion. Parvati Devi is famous for her service to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva and Parvati are actually famous that way. Lord Shiva for his affection to Parvati Devi, and Parvati Devi for her love and affection for her husband. So we see so many very, very profound spiritual dialogues happening between Lord Shiva and Parvati. Lord Shiva is speaking to Parvati, Gita Mahatmaya, then some of those famous verses, Parvati Devi asking Lord Shiva that there are so many living entities, so many of them are powerful and famous, and you know, I am a simple woman, so you just tell me clearly, who should I serve? And then Lord Shiva speaks that famous word, Aradhanam Sarvesham, Vishnu Aradhanam Param, Tasmat Paratranam. Forget the last line. But the point means that all the kinds of worship, Aradhanam Sarvesham, all the kind of the worship of Lord Vishnu is the most potent. And more important than that is the worship of his devotees. So many very profound speech is given by Lord Shiv to Parvati, and Lord Shiv keeps Parvati by his side all the time. When he's doing pravachan, speaking to sages, Parvati is sitting on his lap sometimes. That is what led to the cursing of Maharaj Chitraketu, as when he was the Vidyadhara. Lord Shiva was speaking about Bhagavatam actually, and he was glorifying the need for serving Krishna. And Parvati Devi was sitting on his lap, and in front of him there were great sages that were sitting. And Chitraketu found that. So he spoke in a way, but actually he found it very glorious. Lord Shiva's genuine attachment to his wife, and his detachment also at the same time. The Parvati Devi is the most beautiful, and she was sitting on his lap, but he was discoursing Bhagavatam to the great sages. So, so Prabhupada says that this is Maitreya this is ultimate glorification to a couple, comparing them to Shiva and Parvati. So we are getting a sense of the chastity of Devahuti and her service to her husband over here. And the Prabhupada in the purport says that one of the most important quality of a woman is sadhvi, that she should be chaste and faithful. That's the root from which all the other qualities appear. Verse 2. Vishrambena atmasauchena gauravena damena cha shushurusya sauhardena shushurasya sauhridena vachamadhuryachabaha. O Vidur, Devahuti served her husband with intimacy and great respect, with control of the senses, with love, and with sweet words. The Prabhupada says two words are significant, Vishrambena and Gauravena. So they are the important process for a wife to serve the husband, or Prabhupada says the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Vishrambena means with great intimacy, and Gauravena means with great reverence. So intimacy does not really here mean conjugal intimacy, but intimacy means being intimately aware of the needs and the desires of the husband. And Gauravena means respect. So these two terms are little bit contradictory, because sometimes, like they say, that familiarity leads to contempt. So when there is intimacy, then there can be an absence of respect, and that's why they are juxtaposed over here. They're kept side by side over here. That she was maintaining a balance of both of things. Vishrambena, that very in a very intimate way, and Gauravena with great reverence. Srila Prabhupada would say that one of the greatest offenses a disciple can make is becoming too intimate with a spiritual master. And that's why he did not keep his servants around for a long time, because the servants would render a very intimate service. They would massage his body, massage his head, and they would make arrangements for his bathing, and they would see the spiritual master in different conditions, sleeping and eating. And generally, most of the disciples, they see the spiritual master in a more opulent setting, sitting on the Vyasthan, giving class, giving instructions. But now they see in different setting. So then that uh, that Vishrambena then interferes with the Gauravena, especially in neophyte disciples. People will so the other thing happens. The familiarity leads to contempt. But Devahuti was very mature. That even though she was serving very closely, but she continued to serve with uh, with great reverence. And the Prabhupada says, Damenacha, that a wife must learn to control herself even if there is misunderstanding. And then Sohardena Vacha Madhurya. They're always desiring the good for her husband and speaking to him with sweet words. Verse 3. Vistrijya kamandambam cha dvesham lobhamagam madam apramadathyata nityam tejayam sham Working sanely and diligently, she pleased a very powerful husband, giving up all lust, pride, envy, greed, sinful activities, and vanity. So Prabhupada in the purport says the most sinful activity for a wife is to accept another husband or another lover. Chanakya Pandit has described 4 kinds of enemy at home. If the father is in debt, he is considered to be an enemy. If the mother has selected another husband in the presence of her grown-up children, she is considered to be an enemy. If a wife does not live well with her husband but deals very roughly, then she is an enemy. And if a son is a fool, he is also an enemy. In family life, father, mother, wife, and children are assets. But if the wife or mother accepts another husband in the presence of her husband or son, then according to Vedic civilization, she is considered an enemy. A chaste and faithful woman must not practice adultery. This is a greatly sinful act. Verses 4 and 5. Savai devrishi varayastama manavim samanuvrata daivad garishya patyora ashana mahashisha kalena bhuya sakshamam karishtam vratacharyaya prem gadgaya vacha pirita krapaya bravet. The daughter of Manu, who was fully devoted to her husband, looked upon him as greater even than Providence. Thus she expected great blessings from him. Having served him for a long time, she grew weak and emaciated due to her religious observances. Seeing her condition, Kardam, the foremost of celestial sages, was overcome with compassion and spoke to her in a voice choked with great love. So Kardam here is glorified as Devarishi Varya. So the foremost of celestial sages. And in describing the service of Devahuti, the word Samanvrata is used. So Samanvrata means that the wife accepts the circumstances in which the husband is situated. So because Kardam Muni was performing severe austerities, so was Devahuti. Not in the same way. So it's not that she was also doing whatever yogic practice that Kardam Muni was doing, but she was also living an austere life. And we will later on see that she had neglected to eat, she had neglected to bathe. So she was living a very austere life, very much in the mood of her husband. So she didn't really have this mood that okay, my husband is all the time hanging around on the tree and doing his meditation. So let me cook something nice for myself and eat. And or she didn't even have this mood that, okay, I'll serve my husband, but I'll take good care of myself. So the service was not only with the body, but also in conception, in the mood. The husband was in the mood of austerities, and Kardam and Devahuti adopted that mood of extreme austerity. And Kardam Muni, being who he is, Devarishi Varya, then Devahuti can be assured that the results that will follow will be Daivat Garishya. So Daivat Garishya means one who is capable of changing destiny. So because of the extraordinary powers of Kardam Muni that were bestowed upon him because of his devotion to Krishna, he is described as Daivat Garishya, that one who can change one's destiny. So the word Asha Nam Garishya, that she was serving, expecting great blessings from him, does not mean that she was serving him with a fruitive desire. So Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that this can be understood as follows, that Devahuti was serving her husband with no desires. But by the impetus of providence, Devat, she desired some blessings from him. And that providence, of course, is the will of the Lord over here. So Srila Prabhupada says that seeing Devahuti, Kardam Muni became very compassionate. He knew that she was the daughter of a great king, and yet she was serving him with a lot of austerities. She had neglected her own health, her body, and that aroused the compassion of Kardama. Verse 6. Kardam vacha tusto amadya tava manavi manadya Shurasya paramya paraya cha bhaktya yudehinamayam ativa suhut sadeho navekshita samuchita kshapitam madarthe. Kardam Muni said, O respectful daughter of Swambhavu Manu, today I am very much pleased with you for your great devotion and most excellent loving service. Since the body is so dear to embodied beings, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf. So Kardam Muni is expressing his gratitude to Devahuti. So Prabhupada says that one's body is very dear, yet Devahuti was so faithful to her husband that she not only served him with great devotion, service, and respect, but did not even care for her own health. That is called selfless service. It appears that Devahuti had no sense of pleasure even with her husband. Otherwise, she would not have deteriorated in health. So in these 6 verses, from verse 1 to 6, there are 19 qualities of Devahuti that are glorified. And there are also qualities of a wife towards a husband, and also you'll see with qualities of that represent high morality, qualities of a wife. So we did them. We'll quickly summarize them again. So Shiva Sadhavi, chaste, Patimingita, Kovid, understanding the desires of the husband. Then Pritya, served with great love. Vishrambena, with intimacy. Gauravena, with great respect. Atmasauchena, with purity of body and mind. Damena, sense control. Shushurasya sahodena, served with love. Vacha madhurya, with sweet words. Vishrikaman dambam, dvesham lobam agam madam, giving up all lust, pride, envy, greed, sinful activities, and vanity. Apramata udyata nityam, working sanely and diligently. Samanvrita, adjusting according to the circumstances of the husband. Daivat garishya, considering him greater than providence. So this does not mean that Devahuti got confused about the position of Krishna. So this is similar to a Prabhupada also comment, this is similar to the relationship between a disciple and a guru. So the disciple considers the guru to be greater than the Lord, not because they're confused about the position of the guru with respect to Krishna, but because the guru is delivering Krishna to them. So that is why they consider them greater than Krishna, because Krishna on his own cannot deliver himself, but the guru can deliver him. So that is why in that particular relationship. So similarly, Daivatya Garishya. Kalena Bhuyasa, for a long time, which means consistent and continuous. Not that only serve on Mondays and Wednesdays and not other days, but for a long time. It does not indicate how many years had gone by, but it seems that several years had passed. Then Ashanam Maha Ashisha, that expecting great blessings. So this again talks about the mode of exclusive dependence. So we had discussed this. Ashana Maha Ashisha does not really mean that she was serving in a fruity mood, but the mood was that whatever I need, I can get from you. I don't have to go to anybody else. Then Manavim. That Manavim is literally daughter of Manu, but really talks about past opulence. That Devahuti, regardless of a past opulence. So Devahuti didn't say that in my father's house, I had 25 servants and I would never get up till 10 a.m. and I had somebody draw the bath for me. And now I have a small heart. So she did not care, regardless of the previous situation. Kind of similar to Samanvratam, basically serving according to the present circumstances of the husband. Then Dehana Avekshita, neglecting one's own body, which means that placing his needs above her own. Bhaktya, with great devotion and Mat Anusevanya, selfless service. So some of these qualities are glorified by Maitreya, some of these qualities are glorified by Kardamuni himself. The 19 qualities in the service there. So verse 7. Yame swadharma niratsa tapasamadhi vidyatma yoga vijita bhagavat prasada tanivatamad anusevanaya varuddhan Desham prapasya vitram yabhyana shokan. Kardamuni continued, I have achieved the blessings of the Lord in discharging my own religious life of austerity, meditation, and Krishna consciousness. Although you have not yet experienced these achievements, which are free from fear and lamentation, I shall offer them all to you, because you are engaged in my service. Now just look at them. I'm giving you the transcendental vision to see how nice they are. So this is the reciprocation of the service of the wife to the husband, that she becomes eligible to share in his pious benefits. So we understand this also from the Vedas, that half of husband's piety accrues to the wife, and half of the wife's impiety accrues to the husband. So here Kardama Muni, because he's not just talking about piety, he's really talking about his bhakti over here. He says, I have achieved the blessings of the Lord in discharging my life of austerity, meditation, and Krishna consciousness. So he's talking about bhakti. And what he's offering her is not so what he's offering her is the realization. So he uses the word, specifically he uses the word Vigyan over here. So Vigyan, I'm trying to see if where the word is used. Okay, so I misspoke over here. Maybe it's another verse. So here he says, I'm giving you Abhayan Ashokan. So I'm giving you freedom from fear and free from lamentation. So same thing, that he's not just offering the fruits of it. He's actually offering the realizations that come along with it. So we know that once you do some practices, the fruition of those practices is the change in one's conception. That is Vigyan. That you know that you're not the body, that is just Gyan. But then through proper practices, then you start realizing that you're not the body. So Gyan you can give, you can sit somebody down and tell the person you're not the body, that is Gyan, but you can't really give that person your realization so that the person begins to act on that platform. But this is what Kardama Muni is offering. So all that he has achieved, so he says achieved by Swadharma, Tapa, Samadhi, Vidya. So by knowledge, by austerities, by meditation, Swadharma can be understood both ways. That by following his Vedic dharma, by following his Paradharma. So, but essentially, he's saying that anything and everything that I have done, I'm offering to you. And what is that being offered as? It is offered as Abhayan and Ashokan, fearlessness and lamentation. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he again makes this point that this is how the disciple also benefits by the service of the Guru. That anybody can give Gyan, but the Guru actually he gives these realizations to the disciple. So Prabhupada says that she was not supposed to be, talking about Devahuti, she was not supposed to be advanced in austerity, ecstasy, meditation, or Krishna consciousness, but imperceptibly she was sharing her husband's achievements, which she could neither see or experience. Automatically she achieved these graces of the Lord by the grace of Kardama Muni. So Devahuti, Prabhupada says, Devahuti experience drishtim, actual realization simply by serving. And that is what is the position of a surrendered disciple. So later on in the purport, he says that the easiest path is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and serve him with heart and soul. That is the secret of success. And then he quotes the last verse in the Guru Ashtakam by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasado, that by serving or receiving the grace of the spiritual master, one receives the grace of the Supreme Lord. So all these perfections were now available to Devahuti. So with this, we can understand that earlier on in verses 1 to 6, our heart was going on to Devahuti, that she's doing so much and she's suffering so much, and and she's from such an opulent family, but living in such abject poverty. But now we see that what she's getting is incomparably more dear, is incomparably more opulent than what she was, than what she gave. And that's the beauty of 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 uh, this relationship. That's Srila Prabhupada compares this as with the husband-wife relationship, when the husband is qualified and the wife is serving, to the relationship of a disciple and the spiritual master. One place it compares it to the relationship between the jiva and the soul, the jiva and Krishna. So so when the relationship is properly executed, the husband is qualified, the wife is qualified, and then all this happens. I was listening to, I think it was Raghunath Maharaj's lecture, and he was saying that in this current age, everybody wants the wife to be Sita, but nobody wants to be Ram. So the need for both to be qualified is important. The husband is qualified, the wife is qualified. Okay, so let me pause over here and see if we have any discussion on these verses.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. Just a comment. The first part, introduction, you were talking about the women being, how Prabhupada talks about women being less intelligent, all those things, the disqualifications. You were very nicely explaining that, and I also was thinking that these disqualifications are actually qualifications for getting into the spiritual platform very quickly. Being less intelligent means that there is not much of an intellectual pursuit. So they readily accept the scripture without asking too many questions, too many things, and very easily absorb. And subservient to a husband means the humility, they don't have to exercise too much to get to the point of humility to serve the spiritual master Krishna, because it's already there in them. So that is why I was thinking, in the spiritual world, women are the topmost, gopis are the topmost devotees of the Lord. So I was just thinking all these things, but do you have any comments on that, or is it?
Yeah, I think your points are similar to the points that Srila Prabhupada makes, and the points that I was also noting, that yes, these are qualities that when used in the context of bhakti or devotion, they are the qualities that are not only prerequisite but also catalyst for bhakti, and that's why and that's why there have been several mentions of this fact, as you're mentioning about gopis, and the fact that even in the current environment, there seems to be more sincerity, there seems to be more genuine humility amongst the women devotees. And men also have it, of course.
When we are talking on the platform of soul, why are we even getting to the whether it is women or man?
To some extent, it's because we are talking on the platform of embodied souls. So, like the point I made is that in the spiritual world, there are also men and women, but it's not because they're embodied. They've just taken a form that is best suited for service. And when Srila Prabhupada talks about men and women, that's because he's talking to us. We identify ourselves as men and women.
Basically, if it is like, it will be where the soul is leaning towards which kind of service, and the body he takes up. No.
Not at this stage. At this stage, it just means that you die thinking of your wife, you'll get a woman's body. Prabhupada said that most of the men end up with women's body in the next life because they die thinking, what will happen to my wife? Will my wife be taken care of? And next thing you know is they have a woman's body. So no, it's not because of any Siddha Pranali or anything like that.
Another thing, Prabhu, I was also thinking about the last part of your class where the spiritual master, or in this case, Karna Muni, giving the realized knowledge to Devahuti. Similarly, the disciple gets the realized knowledge from the Guru. And I was thinking about how our Maharaj, Rampad Maharaj, gives how to knowledge for us. When we ask question how to, he explains stepwise, 1, 2, 3, like that, and wonderfully, it just catalyze our ability to follow the abstract spiritual path in a more realized way. In a very, I know it's like you chew the things and then feed it to the younger ones, like that. I was thinking like it's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And yes, this is a point that's made very, very frequently, that we express it differently, that the instructions of the spiritual master carry the empowerment, and the words of the spiritual master carry the realization. So these are all basically paraphrasing the same thing, that because of the special relationship um, uh, that is there, the instructions of the Guru are not just instructions, and they're also empowerments. And I believe you had made the same point a few classes ago. So that's because of this this wonderful relationship of service from a disciple to the Guru, and the affection of the Guru for the disciple, the qualification of the Guru to be able to impart that. This, of course, does not mean that you ignore all the other Vaishnavas and you ignore everybody else saying that I'm only getting realizations from my Guru. It means that when one takes the position of that Guru, and it's another big topic, slightly controversial, but not so much now. At one point, it was more so, the whole thing between Diksha Gurus and Siksha Gurus. Um, um, but the understanding is that when there is a relationship of a Guru, whether it be Diksha or Shiksha or some other kind of Guru, these things happen. The empowerment comes, the realization comes. Otherwise, you can switch on a TV, especially in India, right? You switch on a TV, they have this channel called, what is the name of the channel? But right from morning to evening, there's one person coming after another person giving pravachan there. And some of these person are sitting in big thrones, and they have they have an aura coming from behind their head, and they have big pictures of themselves and a small picture of Krishna on the side, and they have this mudra, Ashirvad mudras, giving everybody blessings, and they're quoting fluently Sanskrit sloks and all that, but maybe it doesn't do much for me. They have a lot of knowledge, and their enunciation is flawless, and they are good singers, but there's no connection there. There's no transfer of realizations. There's no transfer of mercy. There's no transfer of empowerment. It's and I hate to say this, but it's just entertainment. It's just entertainment. Maybe it's sattvic entertainment, but essentially that's what it is. That some form of entertainment. And then you see the whole difference. You sit in a class, where your Guru Maharaj is giving, or a sannyasi or a devotee is giving, speaking from Prabhupada's books. The person may not know the Sanskrit very well. Their pronunciation on the Sanskrit words may not be good, and they may be presenting according to their capacity. But you walk away from the class with a changed heart. There is some change in the heart, because that person is sincere, you're sincere, and the message that is being given is potent. The person is not, is not just speaking things, he's speaking according to the parampara, according to his guru, according to his realization. So then you can experientially see the difference between the two. And in this case, of course, it's at the whole other end of the spectrum. That we have Kardam Muni, who is glorified as the best of the Deva Rishis, and having personal darshan of Lord Vishnu, personal benediction. And now he's sharing his realization with Devahuti. So you can get a sense of the glory and splendor of her realizations as a result of that. Okay, any more thoughts? So let me continue with verse 8. Punarbhagavato Brua Udrudma Prabhuva Udrijrumba Vibram Rishita Rachana Kim Murukramasya Siddha Sibungsva Vibhavan Nijadharma Doha Divyan Nare Duragidan Nripa Vikrita Vikrabhi. Kardama Muni continued, what is the use of enjoyments other than the Lord's grace? All material achievements are subject to be annihilated simply by the movement of the eyebrows of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By your principles of devotion to your husband, you have achieved and can enjoy aristocratic family, and one that was very materially opulent, Nripa Vikrabhi. She was the daughter of Swambhava Manu, and she was the princess of the emperor of the world. And Kandamuni here is not belittling her, but he's saying that what she will get is far, far superior to what anything that she has achieved in the past. Right? He's not saying that she's proud of her aristocracy and material possession, but he's indicating that transcendental gifts, no comparison between aristocracy and material possession. Aristocracy means birth, an elevated birth. Material possession means just being rich there. Prema Pumarto Mahan. To achieve the love of Godhead is the highest perfection of life. So earlier on, Devahuti had a lot of opulence, and she was born into aristocracy, and that was the grace of Lord. Now, with the continued grace of Lord, so Prabhupada says the word Nij Dharma Duhan is very significant because Devahuti achieved the invaluable gift from her husband because she was very faithful to him. For a woman, the first principle of religion is to be faithful to her husband. If fortunately the husband is a great personality, then the combination is perfect. Now, this doesn't mean that if the husband is not a great personality, it's okay for the wife to be unfaithful. But the point that Prabhupada is making that it's like the good, better, best. That if the wife is faithful and the husband is a great personality, then as we can see in this case, the combination is perfect and the lives of both the wife and the husband are at once fulfilled. If the husband is not a great personality, then the combination may not be perfect, but it will be better. It will be better compared to it will be much better compared to if the wife was not chaste to the husband. So this has to be understood in that context. Verse 9. Evam Bruvanam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, we couldn't see your camera, I think. Is it me or everyone?
Hare Krishna, I think we are losing Prabhu as well. No? So
Yeah, it is some.
Prabhu as well sometime.
Oh, can you hear me or just not see me?
Few times it is lagged. Now we can't see you.
Okay, so let me log out and I'll come back again. Hi, Bo, can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhu, we can see you.
Okay. Okay, not sure what happened. Sorry about that. So we were at we were going to be reading verse 9. Evam Bruvanam Abalakalayogamaya Vidya Vichakshanam Avekshagatadirasi Samprashaya Pranaya Vihivalya Giresha Vira Vridavaloka Vilisad Dasitanaha. Upon hearing the speaking of her husband, who excelled in knowledge of all kinds of transcendental science, innocent Devahuti was very satisfied. Her smiling face, shining with a slightly bashful glance, she spoke in a choked voice because of humility and love. So Prabhupada says that she had no doubt about the gifts offered by her husband. She knew that he was an expert in offering such gifts. And when she understood that he was offering the greatest gift, she was very satisfied. She was overwhelmed with ecstatic love and therefore she could not reply. Then with faltering language, just like an attractive wife, she spoke the following words. So in 3 verses, 9, 10, and 11, we will see Devahuti request Kardam Muni for a child. And in her mind, Devahuti is thinking that my husband is offering me a wealth of enjoyment and liberation beyond the experience of the present world. This is not ordinary pleasure, and that's why she was agitated with humility and love. And in this stage, she approaches her husband and speaks with a bashful glance and in a choked voice, and whether it was choked out of shyness or embarrassment or love. So at this point, one may wonder that just in the previous verse, Kardam Muni had made 3 points. to Devahuti, he had said that what is the use of enjoyment other than the Lord's grace? The second point he had made that all material achievements are subject to be annihilated by the movement of the eyebrows of Lord Vishnu. So it said that the movement of the eyebrows of the Lord manifest as time. So by the influence of time, all material achievements are annihilated. And then, so these are basically, these first 2 points, these are condemning any material desires. So what is the use of enjoyment other than the Lord's grace? So that means the only enjoyment one should have is the grace of the Lord. And then the second one, he explicitly says all these material enjoyments, they are ashashvata. They are temporary. And then the third point he makes is that by the principles of devotion to your husband, you can enjoy transcendental gifts that exceed proud aristocracy and material possessions. So after he glorifies transcendence, he condemns material, and then he says that I can offer you transcendental gifts that far exceed material gifts. But we'll see that what Devahuti will ask seems to be very, very material. That give me a child, right? This is the desires of almost all wives to become a mother. Very, 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 very material. So why would she? Devahuti has been glorified as having qualities at the same level as Kardamuni. We saw in the previous chapter that Maitreya said that, Swayambhavu Manu said that, Kardama Muni accepted that qualities are comparable. So right after Kardama Muni has made this point that material benefits are useless, material enjoyment is useless, one should only aspire for spiritual advancement, and I can offer the spiritual advancement. Devahuti turns around and asks for a seemingly material gift, that I need a child. And the reasons are very similar to the reasons that Kardama Muni put before Krishna when he asked for a wife. That she wanted to help her husband fulfill his service to Lord Brahma. So Kardama Muni, he had been instructed by Brahma as a Prajapati to have children, and Devahuti wanted to assist. Devahuti was aware of all this. Then Devahuti was acting according to her adhikar. Just like Kardama Muni said that I know marriage life is not the best way to go, but what can I do? I have desires. And Devahuti, she's also acting according to her adhikar. That I do desire a child. Better for me to go with my desires to my husband than to suppress them artificially and then develop resentment and become an artificial renunciate. So she's perfectly acting according to her adhikar. Then she understands that the good qualities of her husband will be perpetuated through the progeny. So this is a way of acknowledging the exalted character of Kardama Muni. And Prabhupada will make this point, that he did make this point, and he'll make it again, that good wife, good husband means good children. So, and the children will reflect the best of the qualities of the mother and father. So Devahuti may not be sure about herself, but she's sure about her husband. That my husband has wonderful qualities, and they will be perpetuated in his legacy. And the final point is Devahuti was aware of the fact that the Lord had promised to come as the son of Kardama Muni. So she was also anxious to facilitate the appearance of the Lord for her own welfare, for the welfare of everyone, and also as a continuing service to the husband, because that was the husband's service to the Lord. Okay. Verse 10. Devahuti Ruvacha Radham Batadvija Vrashitadamo Gayoga Maya Dipe Tvai Vibhota Dave Mibhata Yaste Bhayadhai Samyaha Sakradanga Sango Bhuya Gariyasi Guna Prashava Satina. Shri Devahuti said, "My dear husband, O best of Brahmanas, I know that you have achieved perfection and are the master of all the infallible mystic powers, because you are under the protection of Yogamaya, the transcendental nature. But you once made me a promise that our bodily union should now, but once you made a promise that our bodily union should now fulfill. Since children are a great quality for a chaste woman who has a glorious husband." So here Devahuti is requesting for a child. Vishwanath Chakravarti, when he comments on this verse, he says that these verses, this and the next verse, they're not actually spoken by Devahuti, but they're conveyed by glances and gestures. He comments, and of course he's from a time that was a different time. It's about 300 years ago. So he says it is very unlikely that a woman will make such a statement to her husband that I want a child, and it is more likely that she was conveying it. Through glances and gestures. Prabhupada says that Devahuti expresses her happiness by uttering the word bata. So bata just is a sign of just an exclamation of happiness. So one of the reasons that Devahuti is asking, whether by words or gesture, the reason that she was asking for a child was because she remembered the fact that Kardama Muni had made this statement that I will only stay with my wife until I have a child. Now, this doesn't mean that Devotee was anxious for Kardama Muni to leave. It meant that she wanted to help her husband fulfill his promise. So he had made this, you can say it could be a vow, or he had made this promise. And for a great man, the words are most important. The words can never go untrue. So as we had discussed in the previous verse, that as a service to her husband. And in fact, we'll see that Devahuti is not very happy when Kardama Muni decides to leave. So definitely she's not encouraging. Somebody else might think that my husband promised to live with me only till the time that I have a child. So then let me not have a child so that he'll stay with me forever. So she was not thinking about herself, and she was not thinking about in any negative way, but her mood was simply that of how to assist my husband in whatever way I can. The later part of the Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada also talks about the word stri, and he says stri means expansion. And so expansion basically means that the wife is the means of the expansion of the family by having a progeny. Okay, verse 21. Tatreti krityam upashikshayathopadesham yene shame karishsuto tirita tiriram yasatma siddhaye tatkrita manobhav dharishitya Dina stadisha bhavanam sadarsham vichakshaya. Devahuti continued, my dear Lord, I am struck with excited emotion for you. Therefore, kindly make what arrangements must be made according to the scriptures, so that my skinny body, emaciated through unsatisfied passion, may be rendered fit for you. Also, my Lord, please think of a suitable house for this purpose. So this is the reason Vishwanath Chakravarti is saying that. Um, it's a little, or I guess at least he finds it a little difficult to accept that Devhuti is saying that I'm struck with excited emotion for me, and my body is emaciated through unsatisfied passion. So it's kind of bold talk. So that's why he says that it's more uh, uh, conveyed in a subtle way. So in the previous verse, Devahuti, she had glorified the qualities of Kardamuni, Amoga Yoga Maya. He had said that she had said that you are under the internal potency of the Lord, and Kardamuni had acknowledged his own adherence. He had said that I have strictly followed Swadharma, Tapa, Samadhi, Vidya, Bhagavad Prasada. So all pointing to the Vedas. That as per the Vedas, as per the injunctions of the Vedas, he was making spiritual advancement. And now she's saying that take shelter of the same Vedas and make arrangements for material enjoyment. So for devotee, there's no difference. In all cases, they're under the shelter of the Vedas. Being under the shelter of the Vedas means you're under the shelter of Krishna. So we see this constant mood that whatever devotees do, and really for devotees, there's no difference between material and spiritual, but things that have more material connotations to them. So here Devahuti says that kindly make what arrangements must be made according to the scriptures. So continue to follow the injunctions in the Vedas. So Prabhupada says that the Vedic literatures are not only full of spiritual instructions, but they're also instructive in how to prosecute material existence very nicely, with the ultimate aim of spiritual perfection. So that's why Prabhupada is explaining these material instructions are placed in the Vedas, so that they ultimately give us spiritual perfection. So in this context, there are three Vedas that are often quoted. So one is the Kam Sutra, that is written by Vatsayan, which basically talks about conjugal pleasures. There is Ayurveda, written by Dhanvantri, and that talks about the health of a body. And there is the Sthapatya Veda, which is about architecture and engineering and how to build appliances that will fly in the air, and how to build houses that cool themselves. So Devahuti is asking for all this, so partially for her own enjoyment, but also from a very pragmatic perspective, that she has an eye to the future and is being very, very practical. So at the current time, both Kardamuni and Devahuti had lived for several years in great austerity. So she's been described as emaciated, discolored, and later on we'll see that she's physically very, very, she's not taken care of herself at all. And Kardamuni has been performing severe austerities. Then you can understand his body is also not in the right place for conjugal enjoyment. We see that in the case of Srila Vyasadeva, when Srila Vyasadeva was summoned by Satyavati to impregnate the wives of Vichitraveer, and Vyasadeva made this point. He said, "I've been performing austerities for a long time, And at this point, my body is filled with tapo, and it's not really ready. It's not meant for conjugal enjoyment. So he had asked. He said, "Give me some time, and I'll come back." And Satyavati was impatient. She said, "No, right now." And then because of that, Ambika closed her eyes in fear, and Ambalika she turned white in fear, and that's why Dhritarashtra was born blind, and Pandu was Pandu means white, pale. He was born with white, pale condition. So Devahuti understood that in order to create an environment that was conducive to this particular ashram, the environment needs to be suitable. And then Prabhupada makes another point also, that Devahuti wants to inspire passion in Kardama Muni. Why? Because at the time of the union, if the passion of a man is greater, a boy is born. If the passion of the woman is greater, a girl is born. So she was keen to have a suitable son to inherit the exalted lineage of Kardama Muni. Now we know at least in the first set of progeny, Devahuti has 9 daughters, but then she does have a son there. But at least the desires of Devahuti were to suitably inspire passion in Kardama Muni. And then later on, we will see that Devahuti will also express regret for this. So towards the very end of this chapter, she says that I wasted so much of our time in sense gratification, neglecting to cultivate the knowledge of the Supreme Lord, that I have been solidly cheated by the insurmountable illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because in spite of having obtained your association, I did not seek such liberation. Of course, she did get liberated because of the blessings of her husband and ultimately the blessings of the Lord. But at this point, Devahuti is asking for all this to facilitate the next phase in their Grahastha ashram. Okay, I'll do one more word. Okay, I'll do one more verse, and we can pause after that. So the next 37 verses are actually description of the enjoyment of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. So I'll do verse 12 and take pause after that. Maitre vacha priyaya priyam anvichan kardamo yogamastitaha vimanam kamagam kshatas tarya eva varyachikrat. Maitre continued, O Vidur, seeking to please his beloved wife, the sage Kardam exercised a yogic power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. The verses 12 to 48 will describe the enjoyment of Devahuti and Kardam and the birth of their 9 daughters. So Prabhupada says that the word asthita is significant. It reflects to the siddhis of Kardama Muni. So Kardama Muni was, and this was the method at the time, that through the practice of Astanga Yoga, he was executing devotional service. But through the practice of Astanga Yoga, he also was empowered with the Ashtasiddhis, like Anima, Garima, Lagima. And one of the siddhis is that the yogi can fulfill whatever desire that they have got. It's called Kamya Avishitaha. So just by desiring it, Kardama Muni he created the mansion in the air. And Prabhupada will later on say that when Brahma can create a whole universe by his desires, Brahma, he's also a great yogi, performed austerities for thousands of years. Then Kardamuni can, of course. It's not at all surprising that he created just one mansion. Of course, it's a special mansion that flies in the air, but for a yogi of the stature of Kardamuni, it's like it's not surprising, even though it does surprise Kardamuni. But from the basis of understanding the potency of yoga, it's not surprising. Okay, so let me pause over here. We have about 5 minutes. We can have any discussion on this.
Harishna Prabhuji, Prabhuji, what does it mean, like if the man has more passion than the woman, then a boy is born, and vice versa? Like, is that passion, and is that like more desire, or?
It seems to. Prabhupada expressed this in different ways. At another point, he said that if at the time of the union, if the secretions of the men are more abundant than a woman, then a boy is born. If the secretions of a woman are more abundant than a man, then a woman is born. Another point he speaks about this. So passion is like a more subtle word. Secretion is a more gross word. Seem to be interrelated though. But he would also speak that if the woman is more passionate at the time of the union, then the chances are that a girl will be born, and vice versa. Any other thoughts, questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The procreation is needed so that the world can continue, and also for devotees also, so that we can have kids that are devotees. If not, there will be more materialistic people than devotees. This also would be an imbalance. That's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I think, he wanted to have more kids, to have more devotees.
Yes, can't disagree with that. That's why Prabhupada encouraged Grastha Ashram, and so many advantages of Grastha Ashram. Biggest is you act according to your adhikar. And Prabhupada made this point that you're making, that the souls are attracted to the womb based on their desires, and when they see the womb of a devotee, of a mother who is a devotee, then souls who themselves have taken part in devotional practices in the past will be attracted to that womb. So same point you're making, that that when the devotees, they have families, they have children, they're giving opportunities for other souls to continue with their bhakti. 6th chapter, Krishna says that when a yogi falls in the advanced stage of yoga, then they get an opportunity to take birth in the family of devotees. So yes, and also a big opportunity for the parents. That the parents understand the responsibility because what's the best way for the parents to teach the children is by practicing. So when you have a child in your home and you're telling the child that don't watch TV, first thing is you stop watching TV, right? Then you tell the kid, don't stop watching, don't watch TV. So it also gives an opportunity for the parents to take their own position as gurus, at least for the children, more seriously.
Yeah, and then also if the son or daughter that they are was very advanced in the previous birth, then the parent also gets an opportunity to serve these little devotees.
Yes. Yeah, I remember one of many years ago, one of our friends, she was she was confused about her role as a mother. I mean, she had a newborn baby, and I guess the natural motherly instinct was that she was very much attached to him. But she was also not able to understand, her spiritual life was suffering, and services were suffering. And then she received a very, 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 very direct instruction from the Guru that you serve your child as if that service has been entrusted to you by me and Krishna. And in that mode, so one can use this as a big opportunity to serve, make spiritual advancement, please Guru Krishna. And like you're saying that if one is fortunate enough to get an advanced soul, then if Hiranyakashipu can be delivered, then so can we.
Hey Krishna Prabhu. Actually, we did discuss this point, but just again, repetition at some. The Anima, Lagima, the Ashtanga Yoga. Do we have any references? Is it still practiced anywhere in any capacity in today's world?
It definitely is practiced in some capacity. It's not clear whether it's based on anecdotal evidence. So this is evidence from like Srila Prabhupada, and I don't know if you read the book by Radhanath Maharaj, Journey Back Home, and other references also. So there are people with extraordinary abilities by material conceptions, long lives, able to withstand the elements of nature. Prabhupada talks about the time that he was with a yogi, and a person asked for a fruit from Afghanistan, and the yogi reached his hand out and gave him the fruit. And Prabhupada says that he was close enough to see that there were small dewdrops on the fruit. It had been plucked off the tree. There were dewdrops on the fruit. So they're definitely there, but this is not really that age where it can take one to perfection. One can get some siddhis, some powers, some capabilities, but there are side effects. Ultimately, the practice of yoga is for samadhi, and the object of samadhi is the Lord. For that, this is not the age, and it's not possible for the residents of Kali Yuga to be able to reach that stage. Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhu vyayacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thai Gaur Premanand. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.